Of the many failed theistic arguments that I've seen put forth, probably one of the saddest and most desperate has to be the appeal to authority. That is to say, well, smart person X believes in God, so why don't you? I guess this caters to the notion that educated people have more authority over everyone else, even if they aren't educated in the field that they're discussing. And I find that pretty naive of people to assume that just because someone is educated in, say, the sciences, that they're qualified to talk about businesses or social sciences, etc. Any Joe Blow can do their research off of Wikipedia and present it as a fact, but it's another thing altogether to be qualified to do research in a certain area. It's another thing to be qualified to present um, professional opinions that are backed up, of course, through evidence. It's another thing to present evidence, which is peer-reviewed through the standard that we have been using in academia for the last century or so. But even if you are qualified to talk about a certain area, it doesn't necessarily mean you're right, and especially if all the evidence is against what this professional, or so-called professional, says, then you have to go where the evidence takes you. So for example, you'll never hear me making the argument that, oh, Richard Dawkins is an educated gentleman. He's much smarter than the majority of people on this planet, much more educated. So because he accepts evolutionary biology, and because that's what he was educated in, therefore it's true. No, I will never make that argument. It's terrible. While it's true that Richard Dawkins accepts evolutionary biology as a result of natural selection, that doesn't necessarily prove that what he believes is right. That can only be achieved through objective evidence, and that evidence has to be passed through a meticulous process that we now call peer review. For example, William Lane Craig is a doctor in philosophy, if I'm not mistaken, and he is therefore very much educated in that field, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's right all the time. And in fact, it's been shown several times that he is wrong, and yet he refuses, and by that example, his proponents refuse to acknowledge the fact that many of his arguments have been proven to be flawed. This is why arguing from authority is meaningless. While it definitely boosts the credibility of someone if they are speaking about a subject that they are qualified to speak about, it does not necessarily automatically mean that they're right. You cannot have the testimony of one or more people who are, no matter how qualified they are, you cannot have just their testimony and their professional opinion as the sole basis for the support of your argument and expect to be taken seriously. So whenever I hear these appeals to authority, it really shows me how much people undermine the meaning of education. And by that token, to me, it comes off when a person makes this sort of argument that they themselves are uneducated because of how little worth they give proper education. Now, of course, this isn't true all the time, but that's the impression one tends to get whenever they make such flawed reasoning in order to support their arguments. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. May the truth always be heard.